Well, it's not exactly the way that I wanted to spend my Sunday afternoon, to be quite honest, especially as we're mere hours away from kick-off in the Scottish Premiership. But the game has taken a back seat for me. I don't know about you watching at home, but if you just want me to be brutally honest about things, and if you want my truthful evaluation on today and the next 24 hours at Celtic Football Club, or the next 35 hours I should say, there doesn't feel like there's a game for me at Celtic Park this afternoon. It feels like to me that, football isn't happening because there is so much more to worry about than a 3 o'clock fixture against Falkirk this afternoon. And I know what some people might be saying, that's ridiculous. We've got a game of football, we need 3 points, Hearts won yesterday. I get that, and obviously I agree with all of that. But we are in a total mess. And we have been. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no longer January. No longer January. It is the 1st of February. We have roughly 35 hours left of the January transfer window. Or you should say the winter transfer window nowadays, I suppose. And we haven't spent a pound. Christ, forget a pound. We haven't spent a penny. The Celtic board have brought back Martin O'Neill and apparently hung him out to dry because they've given him nothing in this transfer window. And we heard as early as way back on, I think it was the 5th of January, that Martin O'Neill wanted to supplement this squad and that he needed improvement desperately to get anything out of this Celtic side this season. And I wish I could sit here and act surprised with the way that we've conducted our business. But I'm not. I'm not surprised. I expected this window to be a monumental fuck-up. Pardon my French, and there's probably going to be a lot of that this afternoon, so cover your ears. Turn the telly off if you've got the Waynes watching with you, ladies and gents. I expected this window to be a fuck-up. But I honestly couldn't imagine a world that got this bad. The fact that we are one day out from the closing of the window, with nobody in permanently, with nobody in that I think very obviously improves the Celtic squad, and by all accounts the players that we're being linked with this afternoon and deals that look maybe close to completion, none of them convincing me they're going to improve this squad either. We have went into full-on self-destruction mode. We have spiralled out of control. The Celtic board have lost any run of it that they still had. The place is a shit show. It's an absolute mess. And I'm at a loss for words, quite frankly. I mean, if I was to draw a bottom line conclusion here is, I've spoke about this for months now. I've spoke about this since way back at the end of the summer transfer window when I voiced my disappointment and concern over how we conducted our business. I voiced those concerns through the resignation of Brendan Rodgers. I voiced those concerns pending the disaster that was Wilfred Nancy. I voiced those concerns upon the return of Martin O'Neill. These aren't... Whatever I have left to say about the Celtic board has already been said. I've said it a million times. They're crooks and they're criminals. They've ruined this football club. I'm actually reaching the point as a Celtic fan where I'm ready to get a tinfoil hat. Because I don't know what it is. I feel like I need to buy into some conspiracy that really puts this into perspective and it excuses why we're here. There has to be something bigger going on. Why are we doing this as a football club? As I said, I'm ready to put the tinfoil hat on at this rate. I'm genuinely becoming a conspiracy theorist. I cannot quite believe that we have got to the 1st of February without spending a single pound. I knew it would be bad, but goodness God almighty, I didn't think it could get this bad. And I'm not going to lie to you. Look, I've said it time and time again, and in risk of sounding like a broken record, I am so sorry for the people who think I'm just constantly negative to get a rise out of folk because it's my job or because of anything else. No, the reason that I'm constantly negative is because my football club is currently third in a 3-horse race. Hearts won again yesterday. Teams around the league are constantly improving their sides and spending money, and we're acting like a third place side. And if Motherwell keep going the way they're going, guess what, ladies and gents? Celtic will be a 4th place side. I'm not being negative for the sake of being negative. I'm being negative because it's time to be honest and critical about the position of my football club and about the situation we find ourselves in, the situation that the people at the top have ran ourselves to. That's why I'm constantly negative. And I'm not going to pretend that the names that we're linked with this afternoon and the players that could be potentially signing for the club over these next 35 hours do anything to impress. They don't. We are exactly where we knew we would be this time last week. Towards the end of the window, with hours to go, with our only options being panic signings. Panic signings that are not fit enough to wear the Celtic jersey. And hey, listen, I'll give everybody a chance that signs for this club, no matter what their stats are. Somebody that's not scored a goal this season, what else can I do other than support the boy when he's on the park? I'm going to have to do it, and I will do it. But it doesn't mean that's the route we should be going down. And if you're out there trying to convince yourself that this is good, that this is fine, that everything is okay, and even if Celtic go on to win a double this season, if you still try and convince yourself that this Celtic board have done ever so little amounts to vindicate their position or justify their position at the top of the club, I'm sorry, I will not be able to get on board with you. I will never be on board with you. We are in a position of controlled demolition at Celtic right now. That's where we are. So, we have a lot to talk about this afternoon. I mean a lot, by the way. This stream will probably last longer than the normal half hour. I do need to leave for the game at some point, so it won't be on too long. I'm actually asking myself, what do I do tomorrow? Do I just do a live stream that lasts 12 straight hours? From 11 in the morning to the deadline shuts, because we're not going to announce any signings tonight, I don't imagine. And it feels like any of our business, if we actually do any, will all be done tomorrow, will all be finalised tomorrow. But all the deals we're talking about just now have asterisks beside them. One of them is a deal that could potentially be hijacked. One of them is stalled talks. One of them is disagreements. And that's where we are with all of these players right now that are being linked with the club. That's where we are as a football club. The title of this stream is that we are about to make a rip-roaring arse of it. And we are. Celtic have made a rip-roaring arse of it. And it's not going to get any better no matter the business we conduct in the next 35 hours, sadly. I think that we are in a position right now where we need to, we as fans need to, this afternoon, voice what we truly think. If it were up to me and I was in control of all of this, I would be asking for mass boycotts of this game this afternoon. I'd be asking for mass boycotts of the game next weekend. I'd be trying to show the Celtic board with our feet exactly what we think. Sadly, I ain't no ringleader. But, this is where we are now. We've paid our season books. I'm sure people have already paid for their Dundee tickets. We need to make them feel as uncomfortable as possible. We really do. That's it. They have destroyed this football club. And before I get into the rumours, because I'm sure that's what you're all here for, I've been ranting for 10 minutes, right? I have been ranting for 10 straight minutes because I had a lot to get off my chest, as I usually do, right? But one of the things that pissed me off last night was, and let me just get this up on screen. This was a tweet last night from Anthony Joseph of Sky. And I'll throw it up. We'll come on to this player and we'll come on to this situation in a moment, shall we? But I just want to talk about the phrasing in this. Celtic have scheduled further talks tomorrow, which is now today. This was last night, as they tried to find an agreement for Fares Ghedjemis of Frosinone. If they can't agree a deal, they'll have to swiftly move to Dunajskas Damir Redzic if he's still available. Scheduled further talks tomorrow. Swiftly move on to another target, if, in brackets, if he's still available. Or another target, and it looks as though Celtic might have identified already another target. Now, I don't want to talk about Ghedjemis right now. We will get on to that as the stream goes on. We are run by a shower, and listen, cover your ears. If you don't like sweary words, I'm going to be brutal with you for a moment. We are run by a shower of incompetent cunts. That's what we are run by. The 31st of January, that was put out last night. And we are having to hold further talks on the penultimate day of the window. And we're having to move on to second options, if they're available, on the 31st of January, that was. We had 31 days in that month alone, plus the 2 days we have now, to sort out our business. To get a player, to get a winger. Why on earth do we have to wait till the 31st of January to hold further talks and move on to second best options? If you want to call it second best options. Why is it taking the best part of a full month to get any form of development underway? How has that happened? If we had anybody at a football club that was competent, that was able to do their job, we would have had a winger through the door weeks ago. Weeks ago. Regardless of managerial situations or managerial changes. Regardless of the situation that happened with Wilfred Nancy. Regardless of what happened with Martin O'Neill coming back very unprepared and unaware. Why did it take 31 days to schedule further talks? The people at our club are not fit to run a football club. They're not fit to run a bath. People have the cheek to insult bowling clubs by saying that we're run like a bowling club. There is no football club in Europe at this level, at the level of a professional side the size of Celtic, that is run as badly as us. I will stand on that. You find me one that is run worse than us in terms of recruitment, in terms of progression, in terms of trying to move forward as a football club and improve. You find me one that's run worse. We have arrived, ladies and gentlemen. We're here. The mob across the road, who we've laughed at for the best part of the last 15 years, they've got their affairs in order, and somehow they're being run better than us. Because the standard and the barometer at Celtic Football Club was always to make sure that we were just slightly ahead of them. Well, guess what? Those days are over. Those days are in the past. We're a mess. This place is an absolute tragedy right now. Michael Nicholson is on hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. And he's doing a worse job than you or I could do. Any of us could run this football club better than Michael Nicholson and his cronies who are hoovering up our money every fucking year. That's where we are. So we've arrived. I mean, here we are, one day out of deadline day. We'll get on to the rumours. I'm sure there'll be more ranting to come. I'm seeing the chat flying, by the way. And I appreciate you all being here. We have over 1,300 live viewers at this moment in time. So I appreciate you all being here. Make sure to like and subscribe, all that jazz. As I said, we have a busy 35 hours on the channel, and I'll try and be here through as much of it as I can. Of course, I'll be watching the game this afternoon and all the rest of it. But post-game, we'll be covering everything as much as we can. Very quickly, before I move on to the rumours, the stories and everything else for this afternoon, thank you to the first donation of the stream by John Anthony, who's given me $9.99 in the US dollar, saying, get yourself a drink, mate. I think we're going to need it. We are now officially the Dallas Cowboys of the SPL, run by an absolute clown at the top. And do you know what makes it worse, John? Do you know what makes it worse? I would kill for Jerry Jones to be running Celtic Football Club right now. I would kill for Jerry. Was Jerry Jones' name in the Epstein files? Oh, is that too controversial to bring that up? Dermot. Is it? Sorry. If I hurt your feelings. You know, maybe if you put as much money into your football club as you do your pal Jeffrey's golf course, we'd get somewhere. I should throw out the term allegedly before I'm silenced. By the way, I'm perfectly happy. No tendencies here to go. If I disappear, if I die suddenly, you know who's done it. Thank you to Perth Luxury as well for the $2 saying referee conspiracy in the Hearts game last night. You've seen it. Well, listen, I think we've got a lot to talk about other than that game last night. But thank you very much for the donations. Thank you, John. Thank you, Perth Luxury. Yeah, right. Let's get cooking, shall we? Let's get cooking. Celtic look as though they're about to make a signing. It's a name that came out of nowhere last night, and it's one that I'm going to be completely brutally honest about, that fails to excite me, but it's all we've really got to work with at this moment in time. There's been a total verbal agreement between Celtic and Freiburg in Germany for Junior Adamu. And this has developed very, very quickly from the initial rumour that came, or the initial story that was broke by Florian Plettenberg last night. Florian Plettenberg, of course, one of the best football journalists in the continent, usually bang on the money with everything Bundesliga related. Last night reported that Celtic were interested in making a move happen for Junior Adamu, and as of, the last 2 hours now, this was at 11:18 this morning, there's been a total verbal agreement between Celtic and Junior Adamu. Advanced negotiations are ongoing with Freiburg, and the 24-year-old versatile striker is already on his way for a medical. So apparently Junior Adamu, as of this morning, is on his way to Glasgow to complete a medical and to sign for Celtic. Final details are to be sorted. However, and the big talking point in regard to this story is there are other clubs trying to hijack the deal. If a hijack happens, if no hijack happens, the move to Celtic will go through. You would assume that because he's on his way to get a medical and such now, that any hijack would be too late. But with our football club, you never know. So I'm not going to say that there's a guarantee this boy signs for us. He is en route. He is coming to Glasgow for the medical, pending a potential hijack. There is no 100% guarantee that this will happen in case anybody comes in. Thank you to Callum for the donation, by the way. I appreciate you, brother. The atmosphere today could be an all-time stinker, to say the least. So, you know me, I love my Bundesliga football. Junior Adamu is somebody who I can't say with any real honesty that I have watched much over these last few years being a Bundesliga fan, because he's not been very good in the Bundesliga, and he's been one of those players that goes in and out because he's not really all that great. So that seems to be the situation for now. I believe I have other tabs lined up. It is a loan move. Anthony Joseph reporting this as well off the back of Florian Plettenberg's tweet. He is due to reach the UK today to undergo that medical if an agreement can be reached. Keep in mind that's a big if. And it will be a loan deal because, of course, last minute loan moves were always going to be the route forward for Celtic. So, Junior Adamu, not very good these last few years, and as I said, I fail to be excited about the signing of Junior Adamu because at Freiburg, since signing back in 2023, in 67 games, he's only scored 7 goals. And before that, he was okay at, certain levels. Most importantly, the second division of Austrian football, I think this is. It's a second division anyway. Done okay at the Swiss Super League before getting a big move to RB Salzburg, where he enjoyed a good couple of seasons being played across the front line. You are really hoping that he can kind of find the form that he had at Salzburg. This is the kind of player that if we signed him here in 2023 directly from RB Salzburg, right? If we signed him there, that probably wouldn't look too bad. He would have been a good few years younger. I mean, right now he's 24. So at this point in time, he would have been 2021 off the back of a couple of good years for RB Salzburg, scoring 10 and 28 in the 22-23 campaign. And, we could all be pretty excited about that, a young 20-21-year-old. But he got that big move to Freiburg. It's not worked out, and now we're in the position where we're trying to find a out of favour, out of form striker who I always like dabbling on forums and stuff, and I scroll through Twitter replies and things like that. And if anybody follows the Celtic Thunder Twitter account, they'll already see some of the posts that I've put up. But off the back of this news, all there has been on social media, on some of these forums, are Freiburg fans laughing and celebrating that the boy is being signed and leaving. Some fans even begging that we take him as quickly as possible. That's the type of player we're saying right now, and that's the kind of corner that we've backed ourselves into. I'm not saying that the boy is a total bust or there's nothing to be excited about. All I'm saying is at this point of the window, when you consider the wider circumstances of what we need and where we are, it's hard to get excited over a boy that to this point in the season, in the 25-26 campaign, has 2 goals and an assist to his name. He has been deployed across the front line, mostly as a centre forward, so it looks as though Junior Adamu might be coming in as this second striker option that we will maybe be talking about. He's not played that much as a winger, so a lot of people talking about, wingers and stuff like that. He's not played that often at the left or right wing, so it looks as though he's coming in as a striker option alongside Thomas Chavachara off my reading. I might be understanding that wrong, but yeah, over the course of his career, 271 games, 97 goals, 29 assists, it's certainly not that bad, but you are hoping on, a prayer that he recovers his form from Salzburg in the past. I think it could be far worse than this, but it's not exactly spectacular reading. As I was saying, this right here is where we seem to be. This seems to be at advanced talks with Freiburg over a loan deal for Junior Adamu. I think that we need to probably sit here and accept that one by now, unless the deal obviously gets hijacked. And if it gets hijacked, ladies and gentlemen, that's where things get bad for Celtic and we really start to scramble. So that's one of the big talking points this afternoon. We'll watch where that goes over these next 24 hours and where things go. But that's that. So that's the first one. I hope, once again, as I said, any of these players that come through, despite where they have form, despite their form right now, and despite everything that's going on with them right now, I want them to do well for Celtic. So, that's what I hope and I pray that it all works out, to be quite honest. It's not the only big transfer news today in regards to Celtic. We have got to talk about the whole Fares Ghedjemis situation, which is very quickly becoming a saga. By the way, I forgot to say thank you to Patman for the £5 donation. Thank you, mate. He's saying, is it true that Kenny Miller has joined Ronnie Dyler as a coach in Maccabi Tel Aviv? I mean, probably. He was his assistant coach in New York, wasn't he? Or somewhere. One of the jobs. I think it was the New York job. He's been his assistant before. So, I mean, it probably is true. They've obviously got a professional relationship that works. Anyway, Anthony Joseph and Luca Bindoni, who is a Sky Sports Italia journalist, are updating us on the Fares Ghedjemis situation, which I'm now starting to think is one that's just not going to happen. Talks have stalled, and the clubs have been unable to come to an agreement on a structure of a £6.5 million deal, apparently. So Celtic are now in advanced talks for Lorient's Joel Mvuka, who we'll talk about in a moment. So, listen, the Freiburg boy is one that I'm not excited about, and one that I'm not going to sit and beat around the bush about. The boy Mvuka will come to in a moment. I think that's even worse. But this whole Fares Ghedjemis situation is stalled. Apparently Celtic can't reach an agreement over the £6.5 million deal. This one just was so stupid to me in the first place. For a guy whose contract is up at the end of the season, why on earth were we willing to pay six? This is what I mean. So, like, I'm not going to backtrack. I'm going to stay consistent, right? I'm going to stay consistent with what I've been saying all window. I don't care how much money it takes at this point. I just want Celtic to sign players because we need them, and we need them badly, especially in the wings. I'm like, at the end of the day, just spend the money and get a player. But that's also on the understanding that things at least line up and look logical. There is such a lack of logic that exists at Celtic right now, which obviously, or shows how obviously we can't carry out business to a professional standard, or a standard that any other top football club would. This is a boy whose contract is up at the end of the season, who hasn't been that great over the extent of his career. He's enjoying a good campaign right now in the second division of Italy, which I'm sure would maybe translate quite well over to here in Scottish football or whatever, but £6.5 million for somebody's contract who's up at the end of the year, it's just bizarre. And what I don't understand is, and I get it, people are probably fed up with mentioning somebody's name time and time again when there's clearly no real link or no substance to suggest that there's anything happening. But there's a boy in South Lanarkshire right now who scored another 2 yesterday, by the way, clearly good enough to play for Celtic in my opinion, that I think £6.5 million would get accepted no bother by Motherwell, as much as they're probably desperate to hold on to Maswinisi through this transfer window. Why, and I get it, he's in a bit of a contract situation as well. I don't know if he's been given an extra year on top of the one that was meant to expire at the end of the season. But point being, there's a boy across the road that wouldn't even have to move house to sign for Celtic. And we're just pretending he's not there. Instead, they're willing to gamble £6.5 million on somebody who might be good, might not be good. Anyway, point being, the talks have stalled. And at this point in the window, where we have 35 hours left, to me, that probably means he will not be signing for Celtic. And we have apparently moved on to a different option anyway. That option being Lorient's Joel Mvuka. So, there'll be an update if anything changes as the day goes on, says Luca Bindoni of Sky Italia, who of course will probably have the more reliable information. That leg of Sky will know. And off the back of that, now Celtic look as though they've moved on to another option. It doesn't... Now, of course, last night we spoke about how Redzic was apparently going to be the second place signing, and we'd go for him if he was still available. Apparently he's not still available because Celtic now are in advanced talks to sign Joel Mvuka of Lorient. Now, I don't know... This is too coincidental in my eyes. We were linked with another dud from Lorient right at the start of the window, the big striker, remember? And Mo Bamba, his name was, I got hoes, Mo Bamba, we all remember Mo. And he looked absolutely fucking dreadful. He looked terrible. He played for Lorient. Now, I would need to go and look. I would not be stunned if it turned out they have the same agent. I would not be stunned, because we are now in for another dud from Lorient. Apparently, Celtic are in advanced talks to sign Joel Mvuka. It's understood that we are edging closer to a deal with some details still to be sorted. Mvuka is believed to be keen to join Celtic with the hopes of breaking into the Norway squad for the World Cup. He is a Norwegian national, used to play for Bodo Glimt. And I've seen people online already saying if this was a boy signing from Bodo Glimt, we'd all be saying something different. He wasn't that good at Bodo. It's not like somebody's associated with Bodo and like automatically they're good. The ones that we've been linked with at Bodo, or the manager at Bodo or whatever that we all liked, or the big Ho, the striker or whatever, it's because they're actually good players with very encouraging stats. Joel Mvuka isn't, I hate to tell it to you, ladies and gentlemen, he isn't one of those players. His time at Bodo Glimt, he scored 8 goals in 84 games. Like, I want somebody that's got to come in and score goals. This is his stats right now for Lorient. In the second division of France last year, he scored 3 goals. 3 goals in the second division, and he only had 1 assist. 4 goal contributions in 30 games. That's what we're wanting here. And once again, I would be more than happy for the lad to come in, prove me wrong and all of that, and I will support. I obviously want him to do well. Of course I do. But that doesn't mean that you automatically start going, oh, that's a great signing. Oh, that's what we should be doing. This is terrible reading. 14 goals in 183 games for an attacking player. Are you taking the piss? He's got 14 goals and 22 assists in 183 games. How are you meant to convince yourself that this is any good? I'm like, what? Tell me, anybody in the chat, how am I meant to do it? This is absolutely ridiculous. This is where we are. And this is where we've backed ourselves into panic. He's wanting a call up for the Norway squad for the World Cup. My God almighty, he'll have to work hard for that because he's hopeless by the looks of it. He's hopeless. Cheap, panic, loan option. Sums us up. Great form with his 15 games and 0 goals and 0 assists this season. I mean, I'm scunnered at this point. I'm scunnered, you know. What is there to say? And like, I get it, he's played in European football and stuff like that, but I mean, his European stats aren't exactly encouraging. Last year for young boys, or 2 years ago I should say, for young boys, 2 games, nothing, bugger all to show for it. Conference League, 22-23 for Bodo Glimt, 2 games, bugger all to show for it. Europa League, 6 games, bugger all to show for it. We need goals. Our front line's struggling for goals. We scored 4 the other night in a European game and not 1 was scored by an attacker. So what's our solution? To bring in somebody that scored 14 in 183 games? So, I fail to be impressed. And I get it. Some people are just that down bad right now that they're willing to take anything and they're trying to convince themselves that it's all okay. But is this where we should be? Is this what we lower our standards to? Is this it? Is this what we've become? Like, once again, I'll support him and I want him to do well, but my goodness God almighty, it's brutal reading. It's brutal reading. And honestly, I wish that I could look at it in the way that some people will choose to, but the boy looks shite. And this is the reason that we're at the end of this window, getting offloaded with the shite that Cubs don't want, hoping that we can get something and out of them, and hopefully we can find a tune out of them. He's been a backup for Lorient this season in Ligue 1, and it cost him 4 million when they signed him. So yeah, Norwegian international. Well, not actually a Norwegian international. He hasn't been capped for the Norwegian national side. Only capped for the under 21s and the under 18s, I believe. But aye, so just to reiterate, Celtic are in advanced talks with Freiburg over a loan deal for striker Junior Adamu, and they're also in advanced talks to sign the winger Joel Mvuka. Bazooka, that Mvuka, from Lorient, and that seems to be the direction in which we're going in. I am obviously refreshing things as quickly as I possibly can. I'm seeing people say maybe try and be optimistic. How can I be optimistic when I'm reading this stuff? The team's shit enough. Like, I'm just honest. I'm sorry, I'm honest. Yeah, I've lost track. I've lost the run of what I was saying. But yeah, this is where we are. This is where we are. I don't think these are exactly the attacking options that I wanted to bolster our front line and their chances of scoring goals. And what makes it even sadder is I wanted this to be a team that really makes a right good go of it in the Europa League this year. These aren't the players that give me the feeling that we're going to be making a right good go of it. I don't think Martin O'Neill will be happy with these players. I think that he's got his hands tied behind his back at this point, and he's at this stage of the window where he's just got to take what he's given. I think that we'll probably... if I'm going to hedge my bets, when we hear Martin O'Neill post-game today, I think that he'll probably reiterate the point that he still would rather some more quality than what we're getting. And I think that he'll be disappointed, if you're asking for my honest assessment of all. I seen Mark in the chat, Mark Fairfield, saying that, the desperation, we reek of desperation right now. And I think that agents and clubs over the continent are smelling that desperation from miles away. And I'm absolutely embarrassed about how we're operating as a football club right now. I mean, it's been bad enough on the park over the course of the season. But behind the scenes, it's just another animal completely. It's a completely different animal. So that's where we are. I'm refreshing and updating things as I go, just to make sure nothing changes. But as I talk right now, everything that I've given you there seems to be the situation right now. So Junior Adamu, Joel Mvuka look like they're going to become Celtic players, and Anthony Joseph also, of course, reporting that the deal for Ghedjemis has probably stalled and no advancements. I doubt that's going to go anywhere. The Celtic are obviously going to rather signing someone on loan than $6.5 million for him. Are we going to spend any actual money this window? It's not looking likely. Thank you for the Aussie dollars, Dudley Bryce. A lot of Aussie dollars today, actually, saying Raheem Sterling. Aye, well, if we can find the 200 grand a week to pay him or whatever, then we'll see. The last thing I wanted to cover before I go into a kind of Q&A session, and I'll probably stay live until around 1:30 this afternoon, was this big story, which I'm going to put my bets on and suggest this isn't going to go anywhere. But it's something that we probably should at least acknowledge. And because there's been a lot of chatter surrounding Arne Engels in this transfer window. Of course, there was the talk about RB Leipzig looking at Arne Engels in the window. And then Arne Engels came out and said, I'm happy to stay. I want to stay at Celtic. But an exclusive, once again, by Florian Plettenberg last night, suggests that Nottingham Forest are exploring a deal to sign Arne Engels ahead of deadline day. And a winter departure is eligible under the right conditions. Still under contract until 2028. Of course, came out and said that he wants to remain a Celtic player. That could change depending on how much Arne Engels would maybe be offered by Nottingham Forest and whatever deal was on the table for Celtic. If I'm willing to hedge my bets on it, I don't see Engels leaving. I don't think the club can afford to let him leave. It's far too late. We wouldn't be able to replace him. I don't see this happening. I don't see this happening at all. But there is definite interest by a few clubs. Thank you to Patman for the gifted membership, by the way, legend. What I gather from all of this is that I'm pretty adamant that Arne Engels will end up leaving in the summer. Because of the amount of interest that is out there. But if we just to focus on where we are right now and focus on this transfer window, I would be stunned if Engels left at this point. The only way that I could see it happening is if he knows that Nottingham Forest have got big money on the table and says to Celtic, I want that move. But if he was coming out publicly off the back of a link with RB Leipzig, who could have offered him big money, moved back to Germany where he was comfortable with Augsburg a few years ago, I don't see why he'd go to a really struggling Nottingham Forest side right now, because they're not in a good position. Forest, they're not great. Of course, they've got the advantage of still playing in Europe as well, similar to Celtic, and they could have a good run at that and maybe try and win the Europa League. But, I would be stunned if he left. I think it would take, and this isn't me saying he's worth it, because I get it, the jury is still out on Arne Engels all these years and months later after signing. Or I should say, it's not been years, 18 months after signing or whatever. The jury's still out, not only by Celtic fans, but probably by the rest of the country, both from a media standpoint and a fan standpoint. People think he's amazing, people think he's shit. I'm not saying what he's worth, but I think it would take a deal in surplus or upwards of £20 million for Celtic to consider. We spent 11 million on this boy, and I said earlier in the window that Arne Engels for me is somebody that if the right deal was on the table, I would have absolutely considered it. Absolutely, if we were in a position to. But we're not. And that's the big asterisk beside it all for me. Arne Engels is somebody who, if we had so much depth and so many better players around at the club, I would have happily went, you know what? He hasn't developed as much as I would have liked to over this 18 months. 15, 16, 17 million pounds, take it and let's go and sign somebody else. But we can't, not in the 1st of February. So it's not a situation Celtic can consider for me right now, no matter the amount of money on the table. I see people simply saying, and this is it, this isn't Football Manager, this isn't FIFA. People are saying, oh, cash in on the money and go for Nico Segura. Because it's as simple as that, isn't it? On the 1st of February, just to phone up Nico Segura and expect him to absolutely say yes. There's no guarantees around that. Or for the club to say yes. They could hold the fort. They could say no, we're holding on to him to the end of the season. I like Segura. I like the look of Segura, I should say. I was about to say I like him. I've not watched him play in my life. I like the look of Segura. But there is nothing to suggest that Celtic are going to pick up the phone the club that he plays for, and they're going to say aye. And then what happens? Then we're scrambling not only for forwards, and once again, the only other thing is, this Europa League squad, you can only register a certain amount of new names. So, you suddenly lose Arne Engels. Who are we bringing into the Europa League squad to replace him? Because you can't bring in the two forwards, the winger, the right back, maybe a centre half if we signed one of them. You can't bring all these players in. You can only bring in a certain amount. So, you know, it's not a position for Celtic to consider right now. This is something that we can maybe revisit in the summer window, and we can go from there. But we cannot afford to let Arne Engels go right now, no matter what. I don't think this will go anywhere. I think Arne Engels is happy enough to stay. I think that Celtic know that they need to stand their ground, no matter how much money is on the table. But with the way that this transfer window has went so far, I don't put it past us. There is no guarantee surrounding anything. We have already made an absolute arse of things. It would be typical of Celtic in this current situation to make even more of an arse of it by offloading Arne Engels. Just be aware that there is interest out there. And on that note, that is basically everything in regards to the stories right now. I will stay live for the next 15 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes, going through some of your questions, going through some of your points, so feel free to get them in. The chat, once again, is flying, so apologies I won't be able to get to every single comment, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon before the Falkirk game. In fact, we're probably not too far away from the starting 11 being announced for the game this afternoon, but as I said, it's almost became an afterthought. Like, I feel like that game is just, it doesn't even matter, it feels like. So, yeah, let's go, shall we? Apparently Matt O'Reilly heading back to Brighton. Apparently Brighton have made contact with Marseille over that to recall him back. Hopefully so they can loan him out to us. Thank you, Connor, for the donation. I'm glad you had a nice night, mate. Good to see you. Good stuff. Hope it was nice. Right, let's get your questions in. Let's go. Watch this lineup come out and Engels will be missing. The Martin will say he's travelling down. Don't even put that in the air, Jace. Please. Please do not put that in the air. I don't have a problem with Celtic signing the odd player who's down on luck after a few tough seasons, but filling out our squad with them hoping they find form is utterly shambolic. I think that you are right there, Matthew, in the sense that I've never been against it when the circumstances are right. When Celtic are flying and they're top of the league and there's an air of optimism around the place, I think it's totally acceptable from time to time to take a gamble on somebody that was maybe great a few years ago and you're trying to revive their career. But the circumstances right now are that Celtic are third in the league table, behind both Hearts and Rangers. They've got a big, huge, massive European game coming up where they could potentially try and go on a run in Europe. And we're filling out our squad, as you said, with people who are down in their luck duds. That's what the problem is. And this is... And I think when people go, oh, but he was good a few years ago, oh, he looks good, stop being so negative, I think they're forgetting that the Celtic squad is as bad as it is right now. Have we been watching the same campaign this year? Because the squad is shitting off without filling it out with more duds. I think you're right, Matthew. Nathan saying, possible under the right conditions in quotation marks. If enough money comes in, or worry his prem size can throw big fees that the board won't turn down. Yeah, as I said, there's no guarantees around nothing. I don't think he'll go in this window. If I was to put my bets on it, I don't think he'll go in this window. But there's absolutely no guarantees. There's absolutely no guarantees. Like, if there's money there, you know that the eyes will light up at Celtic. As I said, I'm starting to get the tinfoil hat out and expecting, some big massive story to come out about why we've spent no money. Where's the financial reports? I want to see them. What would you do if we announced someone at the game today and it's Matt O'Reilly and Engels? I mean, if Matt O'Reilly was announced at Celtic Park today, Sean, you would hear me scream in a good way from 412. But let's keep dreaming, shall we? Celtic and music in my life. Been listening to music a lot more lately. I feel that. Mark saying, Martin O'Neill isn't blameless in all this. Surely when he accepted the offer to return, he had to have assurances. If no, he should be ashamed of himself. Look, I had this conversation yesterday. It's a very delicate thing to talk about, isn't it? Because Martin O'Neill is someone who's held in such high regard, with such affection within the Celtic support. It almost feels like if you dare to criticise Martin O'Neill, there will be a squadron of people ready to come after you. I think you need to be very careful with the words you choose when talking around Martin O'Neill. On that note, he obviously has had a big part to play these last 28, 29 days. I extend my sympathies to him because he's been brought in this situation, and the people that he's working under haven't made life easy for him. But that's the reason Brendan Rodgers walked. He saw he had enough. He told him to stuff it. I'm starting to think that Martin O'Neill probably should have done that himself. He probably should have told them to stuff it. But this is the thing. Martin O'Neill has a relationship with Dermot Desmond. There's no point in beating around the bush about it. We all know how they stand together. We all know that. So, listen, you can form your own opinions of him under all of this. I think come the end of the season, you can create your own narrative. I would feel harsh to put, the blame on him. He answered the call. He's doing all he can on the pitch. He's turned results around from a position where they seemed sort of unsalvageable at a point. The real problem is those at the top. Is he blameless, Mark? Maybe not so much blameless. But I wouldn't go as far to say that he's the one to blame, or we should be pointing fingers at Martin O'Neill. It's the guys at the top. Absolutely. And that's that. I'm very interested to hear what Martin O'Neill will say after the game, though. The thing is, the time for after dinner jokes and we kind of laughs with the media is over, and that I think that's the only thing that annoys me. Like, it's serious now, and it's been serious for the last couple of weeks, so that would be my only criticism, to be honest. But I think I agree with Mackenzie. I think that there needs to be boycotts of some form. Look, as I said, I think there's a fan collective meeting on Tuesday. I don't know what the outcome of that meeting will be. But Brian, I love hearing that. Heading up to Philadelphia next weekend for the Plough Boys fail. Peter, Grant and Tosh McKinley are guest speakers. Looking forward to that. What do you expect? Listen, have a great time. I've not been to one yet. I really do want to go to one. And I would have tried to make it. I was going to go to Philadelphia a few weeks ago for a playoff game until the Eagles obviously shat the bed. So I wish I could have went. All came a bit fast and stuff for me this year. But have a great time. I know that the people there are great people. And I'm sure you'll love it, mate. So enjoy many a drink and many a good story. And pass on my best to those at the Plough. Aye. Silas Anderson doesn't look as though it's happening. Doesn't look as though it's happening at all. His name has went quiet. There was that report that came out of Sweden saying that Celtic were apparently favourites in the race to sign. Silas Anderson hasn't amounted to anything, so I don't think anything's coming of that by any stretch. I don't see anything to suggest. The thing is, now we are emerging at a point where, like, the rest of this season does come down to a miracle for Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney, and the rest of the coaching staff. You want to throw in Mark Fotheringham, who I love so dearly. This is now the tools that they have to work with from here to the end of the season, it looks like, and the potential 2 extra tools that are being given to them. Not that I'm calling these guys tools, by the way. I think you know what I mean. The 2 that are apparently going to be given to them, they don't look up to much. It looks as though it'll be Adamu and Mvuka. They don't look great. They don't look in great form. We're hoping in a prayer. I mean, any success that we now see this season will be down to the absolute genius and class of Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney. Simple as that. Like, that's what we're working with now. And of course the players will get their praise when they deserve to get their praise. But it will go down to the genius of Martin O'Neill should we get anything out of this campaign. If we somehow win the league, it would be nothing short of a miracle. Absolutely. Oh, it was poor, Mark. It was just such a bland meh rumble. Like yeah, it's just a kind of sums up the last sort of 12 months, I'd say. But I agree with you, Mark. Not as a avid Roman hater. So I'm refreshing desperately to see if anything happens, and things are just seeming to stay still from the top of this stream, which I started 50 minutes ago. So, aye. Team prediction. Team prediction for today: Schmeichel and goals. I think Araujo will come back into the back four. I would like to see Sirachi start if he's fit, but maybe you don't rush that. So I think Tierney will probably stay in the team. Oh well, no. What is Tierney's situation actually? It's Tierney. Actually quite a hard team to predict, isn't it? When you think about it. I think he'll try and keep the team relatively similar from midweek anyway, as much as he can, with Araujo potentially coming in. And I think he'll maybe try and keep it as similar to what he had on Thursday. As I said, it's all a kind of afterthought to me right now. The actual football itself just feels like it's so backwards. I will be watching the Super Bowl, of course. Right, I'll stay live until for another 4 or 5 minutes. So please keep your questions coming in. Do Celtic just go for 1-goal wonders, Ryan? It's so jarring. Third choice candidates for their team. Yep, that's the strategy right now. And once again, can I reiterate something? There was a statement released the night Brendan Rodgers went, and Dermot Desmond said publicly to everybody, there's no problem with Celtic's structure. There's no problem with Celtic's model. The problem was somebody who was so stuck up their own arse, looking out for themselves, and only cared about their self-preservation. Apparently the problem wasn't Celtic's. Put your opinions aside of anybody for a moment. And when I say anybody, I mean Brendan Rodgers. Apparently, in his exact words, there wasn't anything wrong with Celtic's model or structure. Doesn't even matter about Brendan Rodgers for a moment. Just that sentence in itself about Celtic's structure and model being fine. And here we are. What structure? What model? It's not even a question of what's wrong with it. It's where is it? In my opinion. I don't expect Hibs to get much. Thomas will start. Yeah, I think Thomas Chavanchar will come in. Katie's fine, says Mark. Good stuff. What about Bowie going for... But I keep saying Bowie. going for 6.5 million. I can't believe it. It's a good move for him. I probably preferred that to Celtic right now, to be honest. Aye. It's just brutal. Totally dysfunctional, says Justice for All. Horrible bastards. Yep, I agree. Chilpil said Engels won't be going anywhere. Hope so. I agree. I don't think he'll go anywhere this window. I think it's came a week too late for Celtic to seriously consider anything. If it was this time last week, I would never have wrote it off. How do Rangers sign a first choice Danish international and we hang about and get hee-haw? It's the Celtic way. It's the Celtic way. Kay Sanson saying, I expected nothing, but didn't expect them to fuck it up this badly. We're third in the league. We're scrapping for players from second divisions. Cheap, shite model from Celtic. Yep, nail on the head. A lot of the stuff that I've been saying throughout this stream. First 10 minutes of this stream. If you've joined this late and you want to recap any of this 53-minute long stream, I advise you just to watch the first 10 minutes. I effectively got it all out there. Maybe the first 10 and 15 minutes. Raymond bringing up a point which I have... I've used so many times this year, and it's spot on. We're run by accountants and lawyers. There is nobody at this football club at the highest level qualified to be making football decisions. Profit maximisation is what Celtic are all about, and that is spot on the money. I think if you go back and watch my rants from Rodgers' resignation and the end of the Wilfred Nancy saga, and that kind of week at the start of January, I use that line a lot about how, why are we trusting accountants and lawyers who don't have a scooby, probably haven't played a game of five-a-sides in their life, to be making footballing decisions at Celtic. It's ridiculous. And we're in a situation where Mackenzie's pointing at the chat, we could hypothetically drop to fourth at some point in the near future if things keep going the way they're going. That isn't fucking hyperbolic. That isn't blowing things out of the stratosphere. It's just the trajectory of how our season's going, to be quite frank. But anyway, On that note, I'm going to wrap things up there for the stream. Because I feel like I've got it all out. I feel like I'll probably just start running myself in circles. It's all a bit of a mess. It's all a bit of a disaster. Thank you for tuning in with me this afternoon. I'll be back this evening, is what I meant to say, for the match reaction. And who knows, maybe even another stream, depending if Celtic make signings, if news comes out. I've still to decide how I'm going to go about tomorrow. I might just do an all-day stream, for goodness sake, at this rate. I don't know what way I'm going to be going yet with the content for tomorrow, because we have a lot to discuss and a lot to do. So until I see you tonight, take care, enjoy the game this afternoon. Hopefully Celtic get 3 points. If we don't, then God, it gets even worse at Celtic, but I'm hopeful that we will. Right, anyway, take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen. I will see yous very, very soon. Goodbye.